So, I propose to start, and warm welcome to our Faurecia booth here in the auto show in Paris. And it's, an important date today because it's our 20th anniversary. We were present for the first time with the Faurecia brand name in 1998 after the merge between Bertrand Faure and ECIA at the time. At the time, we were a 3.5 billion big company with 50,000 people in about 100 sites. 100 sites, about 70 plants. Just after, we made a few acquisitions which allowed us to grow. The first one was AP Automotive in the US, which is a clean mobility American company. Then we merged with MCon Technologies recently. It was in the middle of the crisis. And we also made a significant acquisition in North America again in the interior business. We bought back the in-house production of Ford at the time. And you see that these successive acquisition and external growth activities allowed us to grow to 17 billion last year with 110,000 people and 300 sites. We have 275 plants around the world. We are present now in around 40 countries. Maybe one thing, the China growth, which is very significant for us. It's the first global market with a significant growth rate, and I believe that this will continue. I think that China will continue to grow by about 1 million additional cars being produced per year for at least the next 5 to 6 years. We will double our sales in China in 2020 versus 2017, and this is linked mainly to the addressable market. You have in our métiers, three growth drivers. You have the market as itself, with the 1 million additional vehicles per year. You have the addressable market, the market you are allowed to quote, where you have a chance to win a business. And finally, it's the content vehicle. So when you look at the addressable market in China, we are coming from 35%, we are at around 50% now, and we will go to 60% in 2020, at least 60%, and quickly to 70%, which is globally, in all the regions, the addressable market level we achieve. So just this is allowing us to double our sales, or at least our sales potential in China. And China is not a cheap market. It's a premium market in many aspects. So the content per vehicle, driven by the SUV growth, is also fueling, interestingly, our growth. So we are perfectly aligned with the automotive megatrends. We call them CASE, which is connected, autonomous, shared, and electrified. And you see that these megatrends are aligned with sustainable mobility, in which we are strong, and the addressable market for us is estimated to be at a level of 51 billion in 2030. And on the other hand, smart life on board, which is linked to what will you do in your car when you will not have to drive it. And here, the growth is even bigger, with an estimated 81 billion in 2030. Maybe just one information. The percentage of costs related to the interior for the OEMs is around 25%, 25 to 30%. And this percentage in the years to come will further grow and will exceed 30%. And what will reduce is probably the part which is related to the powertrain globally, including the gearboxes. We started this priorities 2 years ago, and in 2 years we were able to really set up a range of partnerships and an organization which we call Faurecia Tech, which is allowing us to accelerate innovation. You see here, it is constituted with our strategic technology partnerships, ZF, Mahle, but we also have technology partnerships like Corning for glass and JDI for displays. These people are allowing us in their fields where they are experts, where they are leaders on the market, to integrate in our systems the best possible technology. We have no intention to integrate ourselves in these fields. Leadership is done, is given, it exists, and these domains are already fully consolidated. So it's for us important to select the best ones, to propose the best integration possibilities. Not to speak about Accenture. Accenture is our artificial intelligence partner. Accenture is also our partner to accelerate the digitalization of the group, and not only on the product side, but also on the manufacturing side, where we have more and more digital productivities being implemented. This mainly on direct labor, through cobots, robots, automation. And the second one is also linked to the logistics with automated guided vehicles, with automatic storages and automatic manipulations of to feed the lines. For hydrogen, we are working with Stelia, which is a subsidiary of Airbus, and Stelia is doing the tanks for the carbon tanks, and we have an exclusivity we have both the knowledge, the know-how, the expertise of Stelia to implement these technologies in the automotive industry. Could I have a microphone which is working? I will take it, because this one is getting interrupted. What is important is technology platforms. We started with scouting the market. So, I hope it will work better. So, we have started, as I said, with scouting in different parts of the world, but the scouting didn't satisfy us. What we are looking for is an ecosystem. We want to benefit from an ecosystem. We want to benefit from convergence of different sciences. And when you look at Toronto, for example, where we are present, in Toronto, you have the World Genetic, which is present. You have universities, medical universities, and you have computer sciences. And if you combine both, you have a very good chance to be predictive from a healthcare point of view, which is interesting, considering what we might be able to measure inside the cockpit in the future. Tel Aviv is for cybersecurity. It's the main place. It's the spot in which you have to be for cybersecurity. And in the Silicon Valley, we are mostly working on artificial intelligence, deep learning, this type of technologies. Startups are also very important. Startups allow us to accelerate. The way we are dealing with that, we do proof of concepts, and we integrate the startups immediately in our programs so that we have a direct contact with our teams. They are working on very concrete developments which should allow future sales. An important point is that we believe that the interior will become the differentiator in the automotive industry next. When you think about the exterior, it will be more and more difficult to differentiate yourself with the exterior design, considering the new configurations, the new segmentation in the automotive industry. The car makers will also have more and more difficulties to differentiate themselves through the powertrain, and especially with the electrification. So I really believe that what will really count for the people tomorrow is what you have inside. And what you have inside might be tailor-made to the people. So you will have a different segmentation, you will have use cases to consider, and you will have to propose to the people exactly what they are expecting in terms of use cases. So it means that the interior will have to become versatile, It needs to be connected. It's already in many cases fact, and it has to become predictive. Predictive means that the offer will be so large that people will have difficulties to deal with. So you have to reduce the offer, and to do that you need to know who are the passengers in the car. So you have to identify them through their smartphone for different devices, and you have to adapt the offer to their wishes. So user experience is driving what we call inside Faurecia the new value spaces, and you have them here. So you have advanced safety. Safety is the important point, and this is what might, from my point of view, differentiate the car industry from the new potential entrants. The car industry today has one big advantage: they know how to drive safely a car. And there will be no compromise. More you will go ahead on the autonomous drive, there will be no compromise on safety. We have to understand that the car maker will have to take the responsibility in the case of an accident in the future with an autonomous car. So you rather have to know how to deal with the different configurations on the road. And I'm not sure that the GAFAs, the BATX, the new ones will have this level of expertise. When you put 10 million cars on the road and you collect data on 10 million cars per year, you have a significant advantage. Enhanced health and wellness. We have a population which is aging everywhere around the world, at least in democracies. These people will have new needs, to egress the car. They will be, keen to have some de-stressing functions, to have health monitoring in the car, to collect interesting information for their health. This information might be used by their doctors to, enhance their healthcare. Personalized climate comfort and air quality, and it's the same for immersive sound systems. What it is about here, it is the bubble, in the future, each passenger in the car will have its own adjustment in terms of temperature, in terms of postural comfort, of course, but also in terms of temperature, humidity, and sound systems. That's very important. The other point, which is also key, is the intuitive HMI. Today, you have to deal with what the car is proposing to you. You have to learn how to use the car. Tomorrow, the car will have to learn how you deal with it and how you want to interface its systems. So it's completely different, and this is why it has to be intuitive. And each person in the car will have a slightly different way to deal with the systems, through voice recognition, through eye tracking, through different new technologies. The surfaces will become more and more important. We will speak about the immersive sound. We will no more use loudspeakers as an example to generate sound. So the surfaces will become much more functional. They will integrate climate functions, heating and cooling. They will integrate lighting, ambient lighting, but also information lighting. They will integrate sound. They will integrate new functionalities, and all these different surfaces in the car will be activated. The user and the systems and architecture for electronics. I believe that you will have two main systems in the car. You will have the ADAS system, so the autonomous drive system, and you will have the cockpit intelligent platform. You will have in the middle a gray zone, which might be or in the cockpit intelligent platform or integrated in the ADAS, which is what I call the low speed autonomous drive. It's the driver monitoring, it's the auto park, the valet parking, all these functions, and we are looking to integrate also these functions in our portfolio. Finally, the Cockpit Intelligent Platform. It's a platform because it should host whatever system you would like to import into the car. What is fundamental is that you will have the possibility to guarantee your digital continuity. What you are using at home, you will be able to use it in the car, you will be able to use it at your office. And you will not want to have to deal with different systems. The systems will become more and more sophisticated in the future. You will increase the number of transactions these systems will allow you to do. These transactions will need privacy because you will have to communicate to the system your data, your personal data, and you will not want to multiply these transfer of data. So this is why this digital continuity will be important. As the transactional part will increase, you will also learn to use your system. You will know in which case you can trust it and in which other cases you have to question it. And you will want to keep this understanding, this interface with your system, which is why in a car you might have a passenger using Google and another passenger using another system, another assistant. And we need to be able to deal with all of that. If I take an example of the triple win. The triple win, why? Because it's important to understand that the automotive industry will not be able to pay more for all these new functionalities. Good news is that the technology disruption is authorizing to generate a wow effect for the consumer, less costs for the OEM, and an increased content per vehicle with interesting margin for us. And if I take this example of the immersive sound system, you replace the loudspeakers and you have, in a middle-class car, about 12 loudspeakers. You replace all these loudspeakers by exciters. So you use the surfaces inside to generate the sound, and the sound quality is then filtered, is then accommodated through algorithms. In doing this, you save 60% of the weight, which is considerable. You save 5 kilograms in the interior of the car. You have no constraints anymore in terms of packaging. The packaging of a loudspeaker is quite big. So when you have them in the door panels, you have to think about that very early in the development of the car. No issue with that anymore. We will have the bass system replaced by a mechanical vibration system which will be in the seats and which will allow individual music. Very soon, this is already possible with our system, you can make sure that only the driver is listening to the GPS messages and no more the passengers. And the passengers will no more have the music be interrupted by these GPS messages. Another example, a phone call, you might not will to share this phone call with all the present people in the car, so you can have an individual phone call which will not be audible by the other passengers inside. This is also by far cheaper than using the loudspeakers. So here we are in a configuration where for the consumer it's much better. The sound quality is at least at the level of what he has today. An exciter is very cheap, so you can add exciting surfaces. You can also have, with the algorithms, a tailor-made sound quality. You have surfaces now which you can design completely differently. Think about a shared car. You can clean the surfaces much easier. You do not have the loudspeakers inside where you have to care about. So globally, here, we are in this triple win situation. Take another example, like the instrument clusters. An instrument cluster today is a very complex and electromechanical system. It's a very complex part. When you replace this cluster by a display, and you use Android to animate the display. You can even, link the cluster with the IVI, with the infotainment system. It's only software. And you have even the possibility to make on-air updates so that the customer has permanently the best and latest information system in the car. And this again is cheaper. To give you one example and just one figure, when the customers in the recent years worked on an ad hoc system, an owned system, the cost in R&D for that is around 100 million euros. To do exactly the same thing, providing exactly the same functionalities, if you do it with Android, it's 10 million euros. And the reason is very simple. The operating system on Android is existing. You have all the languages which are updated. You have the GPS system. You have a lot of functionalities which are provided. And what you are doing, you are just working on the applications you want to provide to your customer. While before, you had to develop simultaneously your operating system. And it took at least 3 years, and you understand in these domains, 3 years later, when you started, it was already obsolete. This is why we consumers are using Waze in our cars instead of using the GPS the OEMs are selling to us. So, we have an advantage, we Faurecia. We are the only one today staying in the full interior. We have all the métiers, yeah? And we are really the remaining one. We had others in the past, but they decided differently from a strategic point of view, which is a big advantage. So we are an integrator. We have always been an integrator, and our new métier is to integrate and scope, which is enlarged, and which is including now software systems to adjust to the complexity and to provide to the consumer the best compromises. Because we are speaking about compromises between, for example, safety and comfort, between comfort and sound systems, all of that. And it's only if you master these functionalities that you can arbitrate on these compromises. Our other strategic priority is sustainable mobility. And you have here what we believe the powertrain mix will be in the future. So you see for light vehicles, we believe in direct injected powertrains, but mainly on hybrid and zero emissions. On commercial vehicles, and especially on utility vehicles, we will continue to have diesel. On trucks it will be dominant for quite a while, but I will tell you which kind of diesel. And you will have zero emissions, which will be battery electric vehicles and fuel cells. And fuel cells more for trucks, because for trucks, batteries is a difficult solution to practically operate. And we also have high horsepower, which are the big engines, over 750 horsepower, which will continue to be diesel engines. So for us, we are focused on two drivers. For passenger vehicles, hybrid electrification and zero emissions. And on commercial vehicle and high horsepower, ultra clean diesel and zero emissions. So it's a very simple display. We are not on diesel. We have always been very little on diesel, so the diesel decline is not at all an issue for us. We are on electrification, and on electrification mainly on energy recovery and CO2 reduction systems. Zero emission, important, we are on both, on battery electric vehicles and on the fuel cells. To give you an idea, here on the tank, only on the tank, versus what is existing today, and this is checked with our customers, our system is, our tank is 20 kilograms lighter than the equivalent on the market. 20 kilograms, which is very important. When you look at the battery housing, here we are around 20% lighter than what is existing in the actual solutions. So we are very much focused on CO2 reduction, including CO2 reduction versus or with generated by weight savings. Fuel cell battery electric vehicle. What is important for you to keep in mind, independently from the fact that all the renewable energies, which are corresponding to 85% of the future investment in additional electricity production, will be renewable. And renewable mean that you have to store energy and you have to transport energy. Because usually where you produce this renewable energy, it's not where you consume it. And the best way to store and to transport is hydrogen. And you might even use the natural gas pipelines to transport hydrogen, and you can even do it simultaneously. What is here important is that you see that when the range is important for your usage, then very quickly hydrogen is becoming more interesting. 300 kilometer range, you see that BEVs are cheaper than hydrogen. But as soon as you go to 500 kilometers, it's the reverse. Hydrogen is becoming much cheaper than electric batteries. You see it here. For 100 kilometer additional autonomy on fuel cells, you have to pay about 300 euros. For 100 kilometers of additional autonomy on battery electric vehicles, it's 2,000 today, and it will be probably around 1,000 euros around 2030. So it gives you the idea, and also the refill. The refill is 3 minutes on hydrogen, and it will, stay at around at least 1 hour on quick charging in the next years. So this is the system you will see here. I will be quick on this one. And what I would like to tell you is that for us, zero emission is a mega trend. Stupid would be to resist to that. It is what the consumers want. They want to have clean air. And we have to engage in this technology. Zero emission is an opportunity. Commercial vehicles and a higher horsepower will further boost our sales because of regulations. Regulations will become very tough with China 6 and with Bharat 6 in India. China plus India are representing 50% of the world truck volumes. So that's very important to us. The innovations we are providing on fuel economy and CO2 are significant and will be reported yearly in our document de référence. So it's part of our convictions, and this is why we engage the company to participate to the reduction of global warming. We want also to support fleets and industries to solve the air quality, and we have a certain number of solutions for the big cities which are engaged in that. And we want to achieve total freedom on powertrain mix. So this was very quickly in a nutshell what I wanted to share with you about what we are doing, in which directions we go. And now if you have questions.
Comme ça? Ah, d'accord. Excusez-moi. Donc, bonjour, merci. J'avais une question au niveau de la R&D. Que représente aujourd'hui l'intelligence artificielle dans le développement de vos produits?
Alors, vous avez compris que quand, dans le passé récent, en français ou en anglais? Okay. So, in the last period of time, and functionality was isolated in the car and was associated to one given module. I give you an example. If you want to have a postural comfort, you want to adjust your seat, everything was in the seat. Tomorrow, it will not work anymore because your comfort will be linked to the dynamic safety calculation. And your position will depend also on what your intention is. If you want to read, we have to make sure that you will not become sick. So we have to put you in a position which is specifically defined for that. In other words, we need a system which is centrally based and which will activate different surfaces, different modules to provide the optimum in terms of solution. And to get this optimum, you need artificial intelligence. It doesn't work without, because of the complexity of the algorithms. The other thing is that we also want to learn. So we will propose solutions, but it might be that for some of the consumers it's not fitting perfectly, and that the consumer will make its own manual adjustments in addition. So we have to memorize what he is doing in order to recognize the next time when we will be in the same configuration to adjust. So this is what we do. Yeah? But we also have artificial intelligence in manufacturing. You know, we are working on reducing the variability of our processes. I'll give you an example. Injection presses. If you master the variability of your process, you are then capable to inject the parts at the minimum of the tolerance. In doing this, your part is lighter and is cheaper because you are using less material. But of course you have to be able to deal with that on a global scale. We have 700 injection presses inside Faurecia. And we are in the process now, with Accenture, to have control towers where all the data is arriving on these regional control towers, and which will allow us to further act on variability and to work on new work streams like predictive maintenance. By the way, just another example, you know, we are using robotics, which are linked to artificial intelligence, in our transactional processes, in our administrative processes. So it's everywhere.
Monsieur Colas, Simon Warburton, journaliste avec Just Talk Royaume-Uni. Est-ce que vous êtes satisfait ou pas que la législation va au même rythme que vos technologies? Est-ce qu'il y a un décalage entre ces deux choses?
I think that in the different countries, politicians have understood that they have to support the industry, especially to test in real conditions the automatic drive, you know, the autonomous drive. But you have to be careful. You have, of course, to think about the people around, and you have to limit what the possibilities are. But I think that I don't see any main constraint or any difficulty to convince politicians, local authorities, to allow us to make the tests. So I'm not concerned about that. Autonomous driving, by the way, and especially full autonomous driving, more we progress and more we understand the complexity of the systems, and I don't believe that we will have level 5, which is complete autonomous cars for us, for normal consumers, before 2030, 2040. But what we will have very soon in the cities are robot taxis, and I think that this even starting next year. Yeah? So that's very soon. But these cars will drive in specific conditions and will probably have a possibility, linked, you know, to a control tower, which will have the possibility to take the control of the car, and the car will be driverless, yeah? So it will be remote.
Mr. Collet, you raised your financial objectives at your results. Are you confident that you can achieve these objectives even if other part makers or manufacturers?
So I cannot speak obviously for the others. Yeah? I can only speak for us. What I can tell you is that I'm confirming fully our guidance for 2018. in terms of growth and in terms of profitability. If there's no other question, I would like to thank you very much, and I would like to invite you to have a look on our demonstrators. And the team is ready for the visit. Thank you very much.